life that I'm living. Sit back, chillin', start a multi-business with the focus of making millions. It's the stuff that dreams are made of, and no hater can stop. Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk Business. I have to admit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that I am very excited about today's show, as we have someone here locally you may know. His name is Cory Pringle. We're talking about an entrepreneur. They call him a food critic, a food influencer. But you know what? We're gonna let him tell you what he prefers to be described as. What's up, Cory?
What's up,
How you doing, man?
How you doing? I'm doing good.
All right, good, man. Thank you so much for joining us today, man. And like I said, man, you got so many titles that's being put on you today when it comes to all the stuff you're doing in the social media space, man. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself and how you prefer to be described as?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on the show. I definitely appreciate it. I consider myself honestly like an entrepreneur, you know, a business owner, right? You know, and then more like the food influencer, restaurant influencer, or whatever you want to call it. So yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's it, man. That's what you've been known for on the social media space. You've been really capitalizing on that. And we appreciate the content that you've been giving us on that, man, because I have to admit, I myself have gone to restaurants based on your views.
Yeah.
And for people who are not familiar with the content that you put out there, talk a little bit about that and how you got started with it.
So how I got started with really doing like the food reviews and everything is honestly, I was doing music videos and so forth, and you know, and just trying to make that work, and then, you know, realizing that rappers don't really have money like that, right? And so I was like, I need like a consistent stream of like income, and so I moved to like shooting weddings and music videos and so forth. Documentaries, small, like just basically at the end of the day, I just started trying everything, right? And so I got this coach. And my coach or mentor, whatever you want to call it, was like, look, you've done a lot of things, but in order to like have really a successful business, you need to like niche down or whatever you want to call it, like basically pick one thing and focus on it. And so that was kind of hard for me because I was like all over the place. And so I thought about it for a little while, and I kind of was like food. And then he was like, yeah, you kind of did mention something about food. Why don't you, you know, like start going into that lane? And then I was like, okay, cool. And so I did that. And so originally when I first got started, like if you really like look back, my thing was kind of like diners, drivers, and dives. That's what like everybody would call it. It was like, that was the vibe that I would give off. I would interview the owner, and then like I would show like the restaurant, show how the food was being made and that sort of thing. So it was, you know, it's kind of like a podcast too, I guess. But I would do this like little snippet where I'd be like, welcome back to another episode of Eager Local, and I'm your host, Cory Pringle. And I would do like, you know, what people know me as for now in terms of my personality. But I wasn't used to really being on camera like that. And I didn't really care for it, but my coach was like, look, man, that little thing that you do I like it. People love it. I think you should be on camera more. And he was like, it's these things that's going around called reels, where it's shorter form content. Cause you've been spending a lot of time editing these videos. You've been spending like 15 hours on editing these restaurant videos. This would be quicker for you. And I was like, okay, cool. So that's how I transitioned into doing the reels, and then I had to slide in on them, pulling the door open and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic, man. You mentioned about a mentor or a coach, as you called them, because this was somebody that no doubt can share some insight to you, and you will hear what he had to say, and then you will follow up. That's what makes him a coach. You listen to your coach pretty much. Let's back up a little bit, though. It wasn't always this way for Mr. Cory Pringle, was it?
No.
So tell us a little bit. Now, you originally from Chicago, correct?
Correct.
And you migrated to this area. Now, tell us a little bit about how all that transpired and, you know, that beginning.
So like as far as migrating from Chicago to here is really just trying to like escape being around certain environments and wanted to have better opportunities for myself, right? So like when I moved out here, I was able to obtain my GED, and then I was able to go to Ivy Tech and then graduate and so forth. So, you know, coming out here, you know, I was just able to better myself and, you know, get a little better opportunities, because here compared to Chicago, it was like way slower, you know, and so that's pretty much how I got here.
Good, good. And you know, man, I'm glad you got out here and you took advantage of that opportunity. And you're right, man. It's in the Chicago area, it's no doubt a bigger market.
Yeah.
So it's a lot more competitive, especially for what you're trying to do. However, coming to, I guess you could say, a smaller market, you were able to get a little bit more attention. Now, with the reason we called you an entrepreneur, because you didn't always start off with the food critic, you didn't always start off with being a food influencer. What were some of the other businesses that you engaged in that you eventually said, okay, well, I'm gonna transition to the food thing? What were you involved in the beginning?
I would probably say like the first initial thing I ever did was selling oranges in Chicago on the corner, because my father was like, look, you got to work a job, you know, but he was like, but you also got to do this thing, you know, called, you know, hustle, how you a hustle. And so we would go get like 100 cases of oranges, and I would have to bag up all 100 cases of oranges, putting 10 of them in a bag. And then I would have to, at that time what we was doing, we would go into the bowling alleys, and he would have me to go in there. Now at this time, I didn't really think about it, but as I got older and I transitioned to being an entrepreneur, I said, man, it was so brilliant and genius what he did, because at this time I got to be about 5 years old. 6, you know, could be a little less, you know, it's a little blurry, but I know I was a youngin', and I know I was a cute youngin' too. So I come in this bowling alley with these bag of oranges, and I'm like, would you buy these bag of oranges, right? And I always sold out every time. You know what I'm saying? Every time. And so that transition to selling bottles of water, like on the Dan Ryan Expressway, like as you coming on and coming off, and then working the Buck Billiken Day Parade, you know, would sell the bottles of water. Then we had an ice cream cart, would do that. Then after the parade, would go around and pick up the cans, right, and then go and recycle that. And so I would say like that would be like my first introduction to like actually being an entrepreneur, would like be my father and introducing me to it that way. And so I always had that instilled in the back of my mind, no matter like whether I worked a job, no matter what I did, I always considered that. And so transition to Elkhart with having that in mind, but at the same time, you know, because both my parents had died right before I was like 18. And so when I came down here, that was part of like trying to get my life in order, because I didn't really have real guidance, but I also had that entrepreneurship background. So I basically learned what I could, right, went and got some degrees and so forth behind me. And then after that, I had a passion for music at the time. So I started pursuing music, and then I created a little LLC and, you know, started putting out albums and so forth. But then honestly, I started realizing ain't no money in that, you know, at least, you know, from my perspective and where I was coming from. And so from there, music videos were starting to become like this trendy thing that was happening. You know what I'm saying? It was more accessible, right? Because when you think about music videos in the 90s, you would think that you would need like big equipment, kind of like what we have here. But as time progressed, like it went from like little cameras to cell phones. And so I started pursuing that, shooting music videos for artists. And then, like I, you know, mentioned before we kind of got started, like it wasn't really like money in that, because artists didn't really have a budget or, you know, that just extra income, because they didn't know how to make money off of it themselves. But it was a great learning experience for me. And then from there, once I realized it wasn't any money in that, then I had to try to figure out other avenues to make money from, you know, having that, you know, degree in, in visual communication, you know, and so that's what shooting weddings came in, involved getting, you know, subcontracted in different things and learning the game and that, and then starting, you know, my own company and so forth. So yeah, you know, that was kind of like a long answer.
No, that's a good answer though, because if you know, as I'm listening to you, you touched on the realm of a lot of that's encompasses in the videography space, right? So being in that, you talked about shooting weddings, you talked about the the music videos, and each one of them can have their own separate thing by themselves, right?
Yeah.
A person can exclusively focus on video production for weddings, or they can exclusively focus on music videos. But you know, as you got that hustle in you, you said, I'm gonna try to get it all in while I can, which that's a great thing to have, because it gave you what you said earlier, the experience. Now, you mentioned about you know, establishing the LLC. How did you learn to even go about doing that? Who told you that that was something you could do? Where did you get that insight? Who helped you with that?
The insight really is just, you know, books, Googling stuff, you know, and trying to figure out how to do things like the right way. And then after you realize, like, okay, in order to have like a real business, you know, there's certain steps that you have to take. And once I realized that, then it was just like trying to find the help. And I think the initial help I reached out to was, it was one of those types of groups. I can't SCORE. Okay. That's what it was. It was SCORE. When I first started off, I was working with SCORE, and they was kind of helping me get some things established. But the only thing with me was with working with SCORE was I was trying to pursue like running a music company, not so much as video production at that time. Gotcha. So they couldn't necessarily give me like the guidance that I was looking for, because you know, they kind of like a volunteer-based kind of group of people who have like certain experience, like you may be a lawyer, or you may be something else, but whatever. They didn't have no music producers coming through. Gotcha. So, gotcha. But they helped me as best as they could, and then I pulled whatever information I could, and then I best applied it to my situation. And honestly, at the end of the day, that's all you can do is pull bits of information from different people and different resources and different avenues, and you know, try to make the best decision as you possibly can, and lean on that and until it come into fruition, and make changes if it don't, as you see fit.
That's right, that's right. So it didn't matter if you got that specific help or not, you was gonna make it work, sound like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, because you was determined, you was goal oriented, you wanted to have your own business.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So now let's move forward then. Yeah. Since we got that pass, that's a nice pass you have there, man, and I appreciate that. But moving forward, so let's talk about what you have going on now. So remind us again the name of the organization, the company.
So it's eGood Local now, so that's what I do. And basically, I give honest food reviews and recommendations to people looking for places to eat. And then, you know, I do social media management and content creations for restaurants and food trucks that's, you know, in need of that type of service. Okay.
Yeah. Now it sounds like, you know, that doesn't sound like an easy thing. So can you kind of elaborate about how one can, if they're interested in that type of thing, how could they follow suit?
When you say that, like, do you mean like if someone wants to get started and kind of like do what I do, like that's what you mean?
Yeah.
So I guess it just depends on if you're trying to be like a food influencer, or if you're trying to be like a social media marketing agency. I think that would have to be clarified. So, you know, I think it just all depends, really. You know.
So let's say if you have a person that's out there in the audience and they like food like you. Yeah. Of course, we're not trying to mess you up and give you some competition out here, but the reality is there may be somebody out there who likes food and they want to be like you, and they have a particular target market that they want to focus on in a particular area. You know, it doesn't sound like it's an easy thing to do, but how do you go into that? I mean, what I'm asking genuinely is, how did you establish yourself to have these relationships with these restaurants that they even let you come in there and do this?
Just hitting them up, really, just one at a time, really. And when you just starting out, regardless of where you at, like, nobody's gonna give you any money, nobody's gonna give you a chance, nobody's gonna, like, you know what I mean, as far as like getting paid or anything. Right, so I just reached out to them and just like, hey, I'm Cory with eGood Local. I heard you got good food. The food looks great. You know, can I come and, you know, highlight your restaurant? And at that time, you know, I was just interviewing them. So just really reaching out and just showing up on the day that you say you're gonna show up and do what you say you're gonna do. And then just like keep repeating the process, and then just, you know, make, you know, notes along the way and see how you can improve, and then ask for feedback along the way, and just be upfront with like where you at. Like, no, I don't have a big following, or, you know, no, I can't do this. Just, you know, just be upfront, and then look at other people, see what they doing, and, you know, kind of draw inspiration from them, and then build your own thing. You know, I look at everything I do, I look at it as like a product, and then like, how can I make it better and better? So my food review, like, I look at it as like a core product that I offer, and it's like, how can I make it like better? Like, I know I do this and I know I do that, but what can I do to, you know, improve it, you know? And then like research and development. But my family is my first line of defense, so I put together the video and I show it to them. And my wife, my kids don't laugh at how I put it together, I gotta go back to the drawing board. So
Okay,
yeah.
I appreciate that. And we appreciate your family being that first line of defense, my man. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, so that's interesting, though. That's interesting, because do you establish partnerships with these companies that you get to go in here and do these reviews? Is that even a thing?
No, I wouldn't say I established like a partnership with them. You know, I use the terminology like collaborate. Like, look, at the end of the day, like, people follow me, you know, for food recommendation. You are a restaurant or a food truck. Do you happen to need, you know, promotion? Because if you do, we may be able to work something out.
Okay.
You know, and so from there, it's just having a conversation and seeing what can or can, you know, transpire from it. Because first off, you got to understand, right, that the restaurant is the worst business that you could ever get into. At the end of the day, that's the worst. They don't have no money.
Really?
Like, when you do your research on it, like, they don't have any money, and they like one of the businesses that's going to quickly fail before anything else, right? So even with me knowing that, I still got a passion to help them. And I understand that most restaurants, most food trucks don't have any money. They don't know how to market or none of that themselves correctly. And so I come in and I just try to be a helping hand, because, you know, I understand how it is to, you know, have a business. It may not be doing too good, and you just need a little bit of help. And I'm just here to just offer you a little bit of help, regardless of what that may or may not look like. But we can have an honest conversation, and we can see what happens, you know, from there. But I do want to say I'm committed to working with local restaurants, because I have opportunities to work with bigger franchises and so forth that has way more money. But the thing is, I don't believe in a lot of practices that some of those franchises do. Not all, but some, and they have bigger money where they really don't need me. And so I like to focus my energy on the smaller people who do like food trucks and you know, the restaurants that's like a family-owned business, where it's like mom and father and a daughter, you know, and the daughter, you know, come home or really to the restaurant, do their homework, and then they taking orders and they busting tables and they making tacos in the back. Like, you know, those are the type of people that I'm trying to help and serve.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that, because that's interesting that you talked about the marketing aspect of it, and how you know, as I listen to you, I hear that you help them with marketing, but it all starts with sales, and you could do a great job, sound like, of negotiating too up in there, you know. So when you get to the table with these business owners and you do these reviews and so forth, because they've agreed to do this, which is there a contract that establishes it, or as you mentioned, are you just doing it pro bono type thing? I mean, are you getting any revenue from establishing these collaborations with them?
Like I say, every restaurant is different. Some restaurants have money to pay, and they like you and they like what you do, and they want to support you because they understand that you have a business and you have a family to feed, and they understand the value in what you provide. And so yes, sometimes it's money in exchange for that. But then sometimes you get an inbox saying, look, my business is struggling and I need help, and we on the verge of our doors closing and we ain't got no money to pay you. We don't even know if you charge or not, but can you help us? What can you do for us? See, I do a lot of that. You know, honestly, I give back to the food community more than I actually, you know, get, you know, receive, you know. But I still keep on, pushing and try to, like I say, maintain like that thing of I don't really want to collaborate with certain franchises, like like McDonald's for instance. I don't want to work with a McDonald's, or, you know what I mean? But it's certain ones that I would, and some restaurants they need help with social media. You gotta be on your social media game. You gotta have the reels. You gotta have the photos. You gotta know how to speak the lingo. You gotta look at the analytics and know how to, switch up and change up things, if you have to. And so that's how I make money as well, is that if a restaurant needs help with social media management or content curation, then we had that conversation, and then, they hired me for my services. In that area. And then I got merch. If you want to buy a hoodie or, you could support me that way. I got a subscribe button on my Facebook page. You can hit that button, support me for $2 a month. I can, go out and buy a little pizza, do a little video or something, So I got little ways that,
generate some money,
that can generate, money, but at the end of the day, ultimately, if you're trying to find out, do people want to know, like, can you make money? Yes, you can make money, but you just got to figure out how you want to make money and what's important to you, but
So, and see, there it is again, that hustle. See, it just keeps popping up, and it's not a hustle in terms of taking advantage, because obviously you are trying to help people. It's not taking advantage, but because you have the mindset of there's a way to make this profitable. You mentioned about the social media aspect that you can help people. So is that a side thing separate from the e-goods that you got going on?
No, so that's, to me, it's all encompasses to like one. Like it's just all one thing. Like it's just e-good local. Like I know some people may some people may do their business differently, where they may basically be the full influencer, and that's one business, and that potentially could be an LLC or sole proprietor or whatever you want to call it. And then they got a social media agency where that's called something different, and then they may funnel the leads in from the full influencer side on over to the agency. But at the end of the day, when you're trying to make money, you got to keep the process like as simple like as possible. And I already played the multiple LLC game and all of that. Like I don't want to do that. Like I just want one LLC, one logo, one brand that's generating, revenue, and it's got like one system that is following. Because the more businesses you got,
more taxes.
Yeah, not even the taxes aspect. It's just about that you got to have a system on the back end to like run it, right? Like, and that's what a lot of, especially in terms of what we do as well, in terms of like, video production and so forth. You run into that, it's like, what problem do you solve? And whatever problem that you solve, for every problem that you solve, it has to be a system in place in order to solve that problem.
Yeah.
And so the more LLCs that you got, the more systems that you have to have, and then multiple people that you have to run it. And if it's just one person, then all that stuff becomes confusing. And in my life, I want to simplify things,
Wow. Yeah, I appreciate that. And you're absolutely right, because having multiple LLCs require multiple systems that you have to take tend to, and then they got different accounts and so forth. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff that's involved in that. And, so that's interesting, man. And thank you for even bringing that up, because most people are not aware that you can have a system like that where you can have multiple LLCs. So, but Cory, man, you've been fantastic, man. I'm just glad that you came on here today, man. Tell the people how they can find you on Facebook and all your other social media content.
Well, social media is just Eat Good Local, just how it sounds, Eat Good Local, and YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you're a restaurant owner or food truck, it's eatgoodlocal.com if you want to potentially book me for, a little review.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, yeah, you all go out there and make sure you check out my man, Cory Pringle. And no doubt his reviews are hot on the press. Yeah, he does real good with that. And we appreciate him sharing some of the gems that he has with us today. And we're looking forward to your success, my man. Keep it up.
Appreciate you.
All right. So thank you all again for joining us for another episode of Let's Talk Business. And we're looking forward to bringing more content for you. All right. Y'all take care and have a good one.